Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for showing up for a very special episode of Critical Mass with me, your host, Rob. So I'm going to make this a very short monologue. My guest today is somebody who I remember very specifically. I was just talking to him about it, that I was in a space when it happened. And I was blown away that, well, first of all, we all were like, oh my God, somebody was trying to assassinate President Trump again. And we were like, well, it's not going to stop now. And then there was somebody in the space who, now I remember, but I'm not going to out him, but she said, there's no way. I've worked with him for years and years and years. This guy's as pro Trump as it gets. There's no way. There's something going on here. This is bullshit. And my guest today is Vem Miller. And Vem is fighting the good fight against a very, very, very corrupt sheriff, somebody who blatantly lies about who he is and things that he's done. And on further investigation, I have found quite a few things about this man that just reinforces my anti-blue line stance. I do know some really good, really good. Like my local guys are great. I mean, we hang out together. They come, they do range day. They're just there to actually help protect people. They're not a fan of law enforcement, and there are quite a few people in that field that do it for the right reasons. This dude does not. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring them in and try to get, oh, there we go. Listen, I'm producing this myself, bro. So Vem, welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you very much for coming on. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Thanks. Thank you very much for having me on. I mean, you kind of, you set it up in a way where it seems like you've done a lot of research on the topic. So it's nice to come into a show where, because of the media blackout on this particular topic, and we'll get into the reasons for that. A lot of the time I'm trying to show receipts, and, most people are convinced once they see the receipts and understand the facts, but you've obviously done your research on Mr. Chad Bianco.
Yeah, and I got some stuff. I got some stuff that I'm going to pull up to show everybody that's watching. Mm-hmm. So, listen, bro, if I'm going to do my due diligence and be the guy that I profess to be, did you try to assassinate President Trump?
No, not at all. Everything he said about that story was categorically false, and provably so. I mean, I got receipts on everything. I wasn't even at a Trump rally, and this is a lie that he keeps propagating, 16, 17 months later, that I'd entered a Trump rally, that I tried to enter a Trump rally, which is categorically false, and it's easy to prove that it's categorically false because evidence exists to show that it's false.
Okay. Where were you and what were you doing?
So I had, I'd
I,
like to.
I so real quick, I know the story for the people that are listening right now, that are watching, and the people that are in the space. And by the way, people that are watching, we are doing a live X space so that you can join in on the conversation, ask your questions when I'm done with the interview. It's at the Rob 1772. Come on in, request a mic, we'll bring you up. Just keep your mic closed until we're ready for questions. Sorry, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to backtrack a little bit
Yeah, yeah,
because what
you go
happened
right ahead.
before, I think, indicates why there's been such a cover up on this issue. Because I think ultimately I stepped on a pile of shit, I guess you could say, by discovering what I had discovered prior to the Trump rally. So I had moved to Nevada after 2020. I'm actually from California, grew up in California. Ironically, Chad Bianco's like, oh, he's a Californian. Well, I've been in California a lot longer than Chad Bianco, and I think Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton combined. I'm a late '80s kid growing up in California. I have a deep history in LA, working with rock bands that were up and coming over there, and making a name for myself, in multiple fields of media, including as a music video director back in the early 2000s from the work that I had done at the rock clubs in LA. So long and short is I've been in the film and TV business since the late 90s. And in 2018, I made a transition to independent media and essentially doing exposés, documentaries, exposing a lot of the corruption. The thing that was a big turnoff to me as a media professional was seeing the what's called Frankenbiting, which is a reality TV show editorial trick where you create these fake versions of reality in order to create drama, right? Which it's fine in the reality show world. It's like, I know that that's a trick that they use to create drama and to get ratings and all that kind of stuff. But when I saw them doing the same thing with Donald Trump, and this was my learning curve, I'd say, was between 2016 to 2018, where I was like, all right, they're clearly going after this guy, trying to make fictitious versions of reality in order to incite hatred against him, in order to split the country up. Well, that actually was why I started becoming interested in Donald Trump, because I saw him as a victim to these lies by the mainstream media. And by the way, you see the BBC $1 billion lawsuit because of this sort of trick, Frankenbiting trick that they do to lie to the people and create unnecessary friction. And so I get into investigative journalism, and I start exposing a lot of the things that are happening over the course of the next 7 years leading up to today, right? So now fast forward to October 5th, 2024. I get a call, and I made a name for myself because part of what I've done is actually take down bad judges, bad lawyers, expose politicians. I actually have, quote unquote, a body count of people that are no longer in positions to harm the people, which you could actually see on the website mediaassassins.com or americahappens.com, which is our journalistic arm of our brand. So I made a name for myself as somebody that will go after bad people relentlessly through media, through documentaries, through investigative exposés. So October 5th, I get a call from a friend, and he says, "Look, I have somebody that is a family member that's a truck driver, and he's called me, and he's really concerned that his job currently is trafficking illegal ballots." From Tacoma, Washington, all through California, New Mexico, Colorado, and Arizona, right? And so I get in touch with this whistleblower, the truck driver, and he starts telling me stories about how in Tacoma, Washington, there's a port right by the water, by the way, right where the ships dock, indicating that these things are coming from overseas, right? And he says what they're making us do is that they're loading up 150 semi trucks and trailers with one company that's contracted to do so, to essentially transport all these ballots through California. And he's like, what's really weird about this whole thing is like, it's no other job I've ever had before. They won't even let us pull over to take a piss. We have to pull over at one of two truck stops in California. And this is for the California route of the trafficking, which is what he was hired to do. And he's like, we're chaperoned everywhere. The security's heavy. This is really odd, and this is like no other job I've had before, right? And he's like, we went and saw inside what was inside these pallets, these huge pallets, and it's all ballots, and we feel like we're doing something. And when he says we, there was another gentleman that then I spoke 3 days later, but we feel like we're doing something illegal here. This is totally shady, right? So 3 days later, this is October 7 or 8, I talked to the second whistleblower that gives me further information on all this ballot trafficking, right? Which, by the way, if people want to search this on X, just search California Motherload. You'll see a picture of me on there, and it's basically that's the video evidence of all the things I gathered. It's redacted, but there's bills of lading in there. There's actual phone numbers of individuals that were involved in this trafficking. We know the whole scheme in terms of who was involved, the company that was involved, and all that, right? So I around October, I believe it was October 6th or 7th, prior to the second whistleblower coming forward, I contact Patrick Byrne, who's been spending a lot of money on exposing the election fraud. He's one of the individuals that found the servers in Venezuela. And because I knew him prior as somebody that was actually, putting his money where his mouth is,
The servers in Venezuela. You hear that, people? And we'll come back to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as somebody that was in my circle and I was part of that whole Reawaken America crowd where I'd first met Patrick Byrne, he becomes one of my first calls. There's 3 other individuals who I can't give their names, but I guess you could call them, former spooks like that, our patriots, And so these guys get involved. They start researching the company. It's one company that's contracted to do this trafficking. They start researching this company and find out that the owners are actually hardcore criminals. One of them aggravated rape on 3 occasions. Never did a day in time. Never did a day of time, but paid $200,000 as a fine. The other partner, has been convicted of financial fraud, and again, never did a day of time, but paid a small fine, right? So Patrick and his team, with their experience, they start looking at this going, okay, this is the hallmarks of people that are on the hook to the bad people. You could call it deep state, whatever, right? So that sets off alarm bells, and they actually send a team to go and meet with one of the whistleblowers, okay? At this same time, I'm aware that the 2 truck stops in California, what their locations are, and one of them is in Lubec, California, right? So at this point, I put my Glock and my shotgun in the back of my SUV, legally purchased guns, because my intention is I'm going to drive to California and I'm going to go investigate the Lubec truck stop. That was the intention, right? At the same time, James O'Keefe gets in contact with me about his documentary, Line in the Sand, and says, hey, you want to come to the premiere? And that's on the evening of October 8th, right? Which I actually attend that premiere October 8th, the evening of October 8th, right? From that premiere, I go to the after party. There's a ton of pictures and of me being at the after party and hanging out with people. And the crazy thing about this whole story is Chad Bianco apparently was in the room, never met him before. And my friend Nicole takes a picture of me and then turns the camera like that and takes a picture of Chad Bianco. Apparently we're standing back to back practically, right? And so evening of October 8th, now we're like morning of October 9 after midnight. I drive to Lubec, California. I document everything that I could document in terms of DOT numbers, some of the trucks that were there from this particular trucking company brand. And at that point, 4 or 5 in the morning, I go to my place in California and 10:30 in the morning, friends start texting me saying, "Hey, there's a Coachella Trump rally. We should all hang out." And I've been part of the movement for quite a bit. So when they tell me about the Coachella Trump rally, I call my buddy who ran the Clark County Republican Party, which is Las Vegas. And in 2022, I'd run for office for an assembly seat in Nevada. And I asked him, his name's Jesse Law. And by the way, everything I've said, there's articles too, like Patrick Byrne coming out and talking about our ballot fraud investigation and the trafficking. He actually wrote an article himself about it after I was called falsely accused of being the third Trump assassin. And then same with Jesse Law. He wrote an article too saying, this guy, I mean, it's crazy what they're saying about him. He called me for tickets and none of what you're saying is true. So anyway, I get like these special entry passes. People call it VIP passes, but the real designation is that it was a special entry pass because the VIPs, you had to pay, I think, $5,000 to get a picture with Trump or something. So that was the VIP designation. So I get the special entry passes. On October 12th, I simply, and by the way, the special entry passes clearly say on there that you're parking away from the Trump rally and you got to take a shuttle, right? So having that information that I'm going to be, and the distance was 1.2 miles from the Trump rally, very much like Disneyland, where you park away from the entrance of Disneyland, you park your car, you get shuttled to the entrance of Disneyland. So seeing that, I didn't think there was any issue with having my two lawful firearms in the back of my SUV, which, by the way, are also not assassination weapons. The last time somebody used a handgun or a shotgun for an assassination attempt, I think was like World War I or something. So these are closer range weapons, not a high powered rifle. And so I drive to the parking lot area, which is 1.2 miles from the rally, right? I'm 20 yards away from the parking lot entrance, and this is something that I used to do at the Nevada rallies all the time, where I just let them know I have a couple of firearms. I'm talking about the police, the deputies, and in Nevada they kind of like almost like high five vibe you, like they don't literally give you a high five, but they're like,
Right.
"Thank you for letting us know. They really appreciate it. In case somebody breaks into your car, whatever, they know
Now,
the firearms."
all
in
right.
that
So
car.
the firearms were in your car.
They're
I
in
mean, I know that they are, so I'm asking,
yeah, they're in the back of the SUV. Yeah.
are they loaded?
My hand, well, not by, see, California definitions are really weird. The shotgun had never ever been loaded. The handgun actually had also not been loaded, and it had never been shot. That's the crazy thing. These are fresh firearms that I'd never even used, never went to the range with, right? I had a mag not clicked in, but loosely inserted into the Glock 19, but it wasn't in a position to load
And
and
you
fire.
didn't and you didn't have a round chambered either.
No,
Okay.
not at all. And I never do that sort of thing because, frankly, I'm a novice, and I don't want to do something stupid like shoot myself or whatever.
I wish more novices had your fucking. But go ahead, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, no, like these are literally guns that have not been fired, and if eventually if I get them back, I'd love to do a test on them to demonstrate that they literally never been used.
Come
Fresh.
fly out to New Hampshire. I got a range in my property. You can try them out all you want.
Okay, awesome, yeah. So anyway, I drive up to this deputy, and again, I'm not even trying to enter the parking lot. I'm like 20 yards away, and fortunately, I have this little handheld recorder that, as an investigative journalist, I mean, we tend to be a little bit paranoid about everything in life because you get to see some of the worst kind of humans when you investigate what's really going on out there. So as a precaution, I start recording, and I just throw the little handheld recorder into my car center console, right? And I drive up to the deputy, and it's very clear by the recording, by the way, that I'm nearing the deputy. People that, analyze audio and stuff, they said, okay, it's pretty clear. You drove up to the deputy, you called him over because you hear his audio getting closer to me as he's coming to my window, right? And I tell the deputy, hey, I'm from Nevada. I'm a Trump caucus captain. Kind of letting him know my credentials and stuff, that like I actually work with the Trump camp and all that. And I say, look, I have a couple of firearms in my car, in the back of my trunk, or back of my SUV. And I even say, you're welcome to hold on to them and I could come pick them up from the police station later, right? Well, he tells me, hey, could you pull over into that cul-de-sac? Another deputy comes up to me and I repeat the same information, all which was recorded, right? Next thing I know, they're asking me to get out of my car. The deputy tells me that it's for his safety that he wants me to get out of his car because I just told him I had firearms. And which is also kind of ridiculous because it's not within arm's reach. There's that arm's reach regulation that it's like I can't, reach out into the back of my SUV and grab anything, but I comply. They put me in handcuffs. They throw me into a police cruiser. I am at that point pre-diabetic. I asked them for my supplements because I wasn't feeling well when I drove up, but they threw me inside this SUV that I think was 140 degrees or something inside because it was 110, 115 outside. That they just threw me in there with no AC and just absolutely boiling hot sauna. In which I lost consciousness a few times, and we'll get into that story because 16 months later, they still refuse to release the body cameras. And I think that's one of the reasons because of their bad behavior, how the whole thing was conducted, the unlawful search and seizure and all that, right?
Well, can we pause for 1 second? Because I want to bring this up, and this is all of the news reports from that day. This is what the difference in the stories the difference in the stories between what you just said and what I have here in front of me, which is the police report that was given out to, this is Fox 11 in LA. So they said that you were contacted, not you contacted them. You were contacted by the sheriff's deputies on Saturday around 5 p.m. when you tried to get through a checkpoint leading into the rally. But Miller never made it inside. I'm going to bring this on the screen right now so that people can see what I'm reading. But it said you never made it inside because the authorities noticed irregularities in some of the things that you were saying to gain access to the event. Then they said that your license plate, and I really want to talk about this too, and then we'll get to the rest. The license plate was what we in law enforcement would recognize as one that is homemade and indicative of a group of individuals that claim to be sovereign citizens, because that's such a bad thing. Assuming the deputy assumes that he was part of you being a part of the identifying group. Miller was also in possession of multiple passports, driver's licenses with different names, 2 guns, and multiple boxes of ammunition recovered inside the vehicle, which Bianco said was described as in disarray. Now, the sheriff goes into further detail about sovereign citizens group. This is very telling of this guy, and I have some video for you guys, and I have some things that refute the things that he said. Like, I have pictures of it. They are certainly considered a far-right group, people who believe that they're sovereign citizens. Now, listen to this fucking oath-breaking piece of garbage. They are certainly considered a far-right group. I wouldn't say it's a militant group. It's just a group that doesn't believe in government and government control. This is why I am so opposed to law enforcement, because so many of them believe that government control is what you should subject yourself to. They want to subjugate you. They want to control you in everything that you do. They don't want you to have the freedoms that our forefathers fought for. They don't want you to have sovereignty. They don't want you to have financial freedom. They don't want you to be able to exercise your Second Amendment. It's a group that doesn't believe in government and government control. That in itself, whether you believe them or not about what happened that day, whether you are pro law enforcement or not, that in itself, that statement that he released to the news outlets, doesn't believe in government and government control, should tell you all you need to know about this scumbag. Sorry, bro. This is my wheelhouse. This is what I talk about on my show all the fucking time. And if you want to swear, this is my show. I'm a 1A absolutist. You say whatever you need to say, but this is some of the, like, I don't get offended. Like I'm a fucking, white Gen Xer. You're not going to offend me. Nothing you say is ever going to offend me. This shit as an American offends me. They don't believe in government and government control. Well, guess what? I don't either. I don't believe the government has a right to control me and what the fuck I do. Less government, maximum freedom. Small government, maximum freedom is the number one tenet of being a conservative. Sorry, I had to go on. I go on rants. You can just tell me to shut up and let me finish my story, bro. Go ahead, bro. Awesome. Go ahead.
Now, and you and I are very politically aligned. One thing I would say is if people actually do a lot of research on this guy, not the stuff that the mainstream media is putting forward, you'll realize that this guy is a dictator. I call him Stupid Hitler because that's what he is. He doesn't know the Constitution.
Stupid Hitler. Definitely doesn't know the Constitution.
He doesn't know the Constitution. He's a dictator. His words, there's video of him saying he wants to make the word homeless illegal. That kind of stuff that just indicates what a tyrant he is and his personality. Yep. I'm not a sovereign citizen. And by the way, sovereign citizen is a misnomer because citizen actually means that you're the ward of a state. Sovereign means you're free. So it's another word that the intelligence agencies have put forward, like conspiracy theorist, in order to keep people away from critical information that lets you know what your rights are, because this is like, it's not Chad Bianco. Systemically, they are trying to enslave us and control us, just like you say. So
absolutely.
What are the obvious indications that I'm not a sovereign citizen? Well, you could Google search what a sovereign citizen means. Firstly, they're anti-government. They're not the kind of guy that runs for government office. The fact that I actually ran for government office and I'm supporting a candidate like President Trump for government office and doing things like trying to uncover ballot fraud should be indication, because like literally the first thing that they say about sovereign citizens, which, like I said, is a non-existent BS, statement to begin with. Oxymoron is that you're anti-government. So no, I'm not anti-government. The whole license plate deal. So for people that don't know, there's something called a DOT federal license when you're actually doing work in terms of my truck was used for my work, and you could actually get a DOT federal license, which is something that they don't want you to know about either. And frankly, I'd done that process incorrectly, but there was, and this is also indicated by the fact that I was not charged for fake license plate. That never appeared. This is just something verbally he put out there because, as you could tell, they're trying to create this vision of this, Unabomber kind of guy, disheveled, car. His car was in disarray, which is another piece of BS because I have receipts literally from the day before October 11, where I paid $31 for a full clean and wash of my 2024, and we're talking about this is happening in 2024 vehicle. So it was like spotless, the car. But in trying to create this vision of like a terrorist type, he threw everything in the kitchen sink at it. My car was in disarray. They spotted the car as if I had walked in there with mud splashes and whatever. No, brand new car that was clean the day before, fake passes, fake entry passes, all BS because, fake IDs, fake passports,
Yes, multiple passports and driver's licenses with different names. And they said that your vehicle was unregistered. Mm-hmm. Let me scroll down. Unregistered, and they said that you and sovereign citizens believe that they don't need to have driver's licenses, but in the very same sentence said that you did have driver's licenses and that your car was unregistered.
I literally have my wallet right here, man. It's like I don't want to give away my address, but the only ID I had is exactly this one. I'm just covering it up. It's a Nevada state DMV license, and I only have one driver's license. The passport thing is, I was born in Toronto, Canada, and grew up in LA, moved to LA at a pretty young age. And the thing that comes in handy with also having my Canadian passport is that I've actually done international investigative journalism, gone to dangerous places. There's places that your US passport will get you targeted, will get you on lists. So that's actually come in handy for that type of investigative journalism where, say, I go to a region that's like heavily Muslim, they hate the United States, they're agnostic about Canada, and that has come in handy. And by the way, I had legal papers with my passports, which I carried together, that I got through a court order, which explains all of this. And when they, took my passports out of my car without even asking me due to this unlawful search and seizure, they ignored the fact that within the passport there was actual court documents that explain this stuff, right? So, and by the way, never asked me any questions about it, because had they asked me, I'd be like, dude, look at the court order. It's obvious. A judge knows about this. I went before a judge, explained all this stuff, right? So complete lack of investigation. But anyway, I tell him this information. I'm in the SUV, 6 o'clock, around 6 p.m. The FBI and Secret Service declined to interview me. They didn't want to ask me any questions. They didn't give me my phone calls, by the way, these cops. I wasn't able to contact an attorney or anything. They just tossed me into a prison cell. And I was released at 1:30 a.m. on October 13th, 2024. And
They gave you personal recognizance, right? They didn't ask you for bail money.
No, there was no bail money. That was another thing. All of the, on their website, they said $5,000 bail, which again sounds kind of ridiculous if you're an assassin suspect, $5,000 bail. But no, it was worse than that. There was no bail. They literally handed me a ticket with possession of firearms, some weird California unconstitutional statute they got going on there, which is really funny for a constitutional sheriff too, like a guy that's claiming to be pro 2A, to demonize a lawful gun owner. After the fact, by the way, 10 people came forward and said, look, like, I had guns in my car too, and when I parked my car, I just didn't tell him. You shouldn't have been honest. Which is crazy.
Listen, I can't listen, man. I can't argue that point. There's no way in hell, unless I'm in a state that it's you have a duty to inform. I would never, if I got pulled over, I would never, ever, ever, ever tell a cop that I'm armed. No way.
Yeah, my gun experience really came after I started getting threats from my other investigative journalism work, which wasn't happening while I was in California. So I became a Nevada gun owner, and Nevada culture is very different. Where every time I've been pulled over a couple of times for speeding and that sort of thing, and been totally upfront with the cops and said I have a handgun in the car when they ask me. I don't lie about it. And frankly, every single time, I think it's been twice, they haven't even given me a ticket because they've appreciated that I've been honest with them about that topic. So, very different culture, very different culture. And I didn't realize that because I never was a gun owner in California. It was really once I started getting death threats mailed to my home because I was going after corrupt judges and lawyers and exposing them. And so anyway, long and short is, like, the next day, I wake up, I go to the taco place next door to this I call it the porn motel because I couldn't find anything else. Everything in Coachella was sold out. So I ended up in some sleazy motel where, like, literally at 4 a.m, I'm hearing dudes shoot porn in the room next door. And that was really funny because I'm like, imagine, like, you just got, arrested. You don't know what's going on. They got your car. I'm not called an assassin at this point, but I'm sitting there against my, bed headrest and stuff. And it's like next door, it's like, you could imagine the sounds. It's like,
Yeah.
So,
kind of fucking sketched out just hearing it from you, dude. I wouldn't want to be there.
And it's like, talk about like stains everywhere, dude. I mean, black light would have been interesting, But
you had to take it there, didn't you, bro? Damn. Shit.
Yeah. Next morning, I wake up. I go to the taco place next door, and I'm sitting there, and I start scrolling through my social media accounts and all that. And the first thing I notice is that, like, they don't name me by name. They say that they caught a third Trump assassin,
Yep.
And this is where I guess my experience in media really kind of started to inform me as to what was going on, because the way these PR companies work, and I realized that this is PR experienced individuals within the sheriff's department, is like you seed something. It's like you don't say the person's name, you drop it, and then you know that within an hour or two, they're going to expand upon whatever narrative they're trying to create and take it to the next level, which is exactly what happened. Within an hour or two, I'm being called the third Trump assassin. I, I start getting like my phone starts blowing up. Everybody in the world's contacting me. Within an hour of that, I start putting a video together where I tell the true version of the story in this crappy motel, and that video is still up there. The media used parts of it where I explain exactly what I just explained to you, right? Now, remember, my handheld recorder is in the car, and I don't have access to it. And so until I get my car back, I'm being a little bit cautious, but I was definitely wanting to get the real story out, right? I try uploading this video from the, sperm motel that I'm at, and the uh,
Sperm motel. All right, all right. I got to use that one. It's not a roach motel. It's a sperm motel. All right,
yeah,
let's go.
yeah. But I start getting nervous, man, because I'm like, dude, these guys like screwed up so bad that their next play is going to be to try to kill me, and I'm still in Riverside. And this is the way your mind works when you're an investigative journalist and you've dealt with just a lot of different scumbags, right? And so
Were they holding your car for evidence, or you just had to go and pay to get it out? They
I
obviously
basically
impounded it, right?
they impounded it and I had to pay to get it out. So at this point, I can't upload the video because the internet Wi-Fi is really bad at the motel. And essentially, after, I don't know, just contemplating this stuff, going, okay, like police could literally show up to this motel and gun me down. I go to LA, where I'm from, and I go into hiding. And while I'm in hiding, I start trying to do as much media appearance as possible, and I realize that there's a cover up with the mainstream media. Like Ingram invited me to Fox, and then pulled out like last second because their California Republican Party, I think, bought like $100 million worth of airtime for this campaign that Chad Bianco is on, and they felt that there's a legal issue between their propaganda and their
Now,
so-called news.
so Vem, are you saying to me and the people that are watching and listening in the space right now that this Sheriff Bianco claims to be Republican?
Yeah, basically, yeah. That's
Oh,
what it is. And he's one of the top two frontrunners right now. In fact, he's claiming via Politico that he's at 18%, and Steve Hilton, the other Republican, is at 17%, which really is all about the cover up. Because, Rob, one of the things, and I'll get back to the
and
remainder of
what's he running for? I
uh,
mean, I know, but what's he?
California governor.
You guys hear that, right? This guy is wants to run for the governor of California. Boy, do we have shit to show you guys. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
And there's a mass cover up, by the way, Rob. What this exposed to me is how full of shit the Republican Party is. Like, I spent
Fucking facts, brother. Fucking
the,
facts.
the reason this upsets me is because I left a Hollywood career where I was getting paid very good money and feeling like I was part of the Hollywood propaganda that I no longer wanted to be a part of, thinking that I'm getting into something pure, thinking that this is the truth side of things, which it felt like it was as we were exposing all the lies they were saying about the right for many years. But now, all those people that were my friends, associates, are all part of the cover up, including the mainstream media. Like, I can't, one of the reasons I'm so thankful that you would even let me on is because so many haven't. So many are ignoring this story and they're propping this guy up, and I'm pretty certain it's coming from very high up places with nefarious intentions, and it's across the board. That's the thing. It's like I've contacted a lot of people about this topic that are actual friends and associates, and it's funny how they respond to my text when I'm just checking in or whatever. And when I say, look, man, this Chad Bianco guy is a piece of shit and is leading right now in the polls. And if people knew the kind of person, dictator, scumbag that he is, it's like silence. And
Well,
that's been the most disgusting part about this experience, you know?
well, bro, you and I are both Gen X, and we remember a time when we would watch somebody like Walter Cronkite, who just reported the news. We grew up in a time where it was they left their, unless it was really, really, really serious, they left their person. They just were there to present what happened. There was no spin. There was no, and then the 90s happened, and that's where things started going awry. That's my listen. I became cognizant of politics because I listened to metal, and I've been a metal musician my whole fucking life. When Tipper Gore wanted to take my music away from me, and thanks to her and the PMRC, that was the reason why. Since 1992, I have never voted Democrat. I've always voted conservative or Republican. But after 9/11 happened, I started seeing the Republican Party for what it really truly is. Mm-hmm. And they are two sides of the same coin. The people that are captured, that when they go into politics, I look at politicians in three ways. People that want to go in because they want power, money, fame. They want to profit. They don't really care about being our representatives. Mm-hmm. Then there's people who that are altruistic in their beliefs, and they want to go in, and then something happens, they get captured, they turn because the system is designed to do that. Then there are the people that hold their ground, and they don't last very long.
Yeah.
And everything that you're talking about right now, of course, I would absolutely have you on the show because this is the shit that I say constantly about our government. I have no faith in my government. I haven't since the nail in the coffin for me was Waco. That was a nail in the coffin. I watched it live happen, and I was like, what in the fuck is going on? Yeah. And for anybody, and the people that support my show, they know that I have a very small metric for what it is to be a conservative and or Republican, and I don't believe that 90% of people and the people that are in our office actually espouse those fucking values.
No, they're a bunch of elite scumbags, man, and I'm probably part of the latter group, the people that are purists and will probably get destroyed. But I also can't, man. I'd rather. I don't know, dude. I answer to God. I can't take a knee to these fuckers. And
nope.
I'd rather, one day when I'm no longer in this meat suit, I'd rather be able to tell our creator that I never took a knee. It's just not an option, and
die on your feet or live on your knees. I'd rather die on my feet.
I know. And, I'm of Armenian background, dude. It's funny you mentioned metal because I grew up with, and, they're not quite metal, but I grew up with the System of a Down guys, and we used to go to Slayer shows together, and I was pretty much at their first show before they were even called System. In fact, their first drummer was my friend that I introduced to Darren, and we have a big history. So I was definitely part of that scene too growing up. And that's, how I got into music videos, was just hanging out at all the rock clubs, hanging out with, what's his name from Motorhead, dude? I used to see him all the time.
Filthy Phil?
Lemmy. Yeah. Is it Motorhead or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to quote Airheads right now. So for anybody that remembers that movie, who's tougher, God or Lemmy? Trick question. Lemmy is God. That's the statement. And all the Christian conservatives that follow me now are going, oh my God, they got to go like pour holy water on themselves. I can't believe Rob just was that blasphemous. It's just a quote from a movie. It's a joke. Lighten the fuck up.
Yeah. But
so you sent me a video and I want to play at least the first 30 seconds of this, if you don't mind, because this. Wait till you see this. I hope you guys are watching right now, are paying attention, because this is a great AI photo of Jen. Dude, I have to laugh. So I want you guys to watch this, and everybody in the space, I hope you listen closely, and then watch what I bring up.
Elected official in this county, I can do anything that I want. There is only one sheriff's uniform, and that's mine.
Sorry, you have a different opinion than me, and I'm sorry yours is wrong.
Yes. So voters want a candidate that's stand their ground when defending their values and their beliefs. Again, a lot of tough talk, but actions are what matter. So Sheriff Bianco, in June 2020, you were in a face-off with the anti-American, anti-police enemy BLM, and you took a knee. Look, hey, hate me all you want. It just fuels me. Just keep it coming. A few hours later, the looting started. Okay, so why should the voters trust you to hold the line next time? And what would the rest of you do differently when facing the same enemy?
It's interesting that you're coming here with your attitude, but your entire question is too balanced. There were 10,000 people in downtown Riverside. There were 1,200 cops. 950 were my deputies. 300 were other law enforcement officers outside of that. No, I never took a knee to be on.
Okay, so hang with me, ladies and gentlemen. Hang with me 1 second. You heard him say, I never took a knee to BLM. That looks like Sheriff Bianco taking a knee to BLM. In fact, he looks like he's ready to take some baby batter to the face. This blatant lies. So no matter what you believe about this situation with them, all right, if you've already had like your head made up that, you know, he tried to assassinate President Trump, if you're in here and you're one of those people, you should probably leave, because this ain't the spot for you. But the fact that this guy just blatantly lied when it is on fucking film, this guy kneeling in front of BLM, and look at them. They're all happy. They got the white cop to bend the knee to them, and then he lies. This is the most self-filleting fucking piece of garbage. This is exactly everything that I fucking rail against when it comes to people in our government. This is exactly it. You cannot consider yourself a conservative or a Republican if this right here, you know what? I want you guys to see my fucking finger. You as a conservative, as a Republican, if you've ever bent the knee to fucking BLM or Antifa for any reason, you are out of the fucking party. You will never be, in my eyes, and most of the people that follow this show, that support this show, will never, ever consider you a conservative. And you know what? Unfortunately for the people of California, this is what... But see, this is what it is, and it's kind of unfortunate because as free as we are here in New Hampshire, bro, I wanted a gentleman by the name of Chuck Morse to be our governor. He was very pro-Trump. He was all about it. I mean, and Kelly Ayotte is is a protege of Chris Sununu, and I call them milquetoast Republicans because here, the Democrats will vote for a Republican governor because the Republican governors will never institute a fucking sales tax or an income tax, and even the Democrats that move up here from Massachusetts, that escape Massachusetts, want no taxes. So you can't be like a blatant MAGA person here in New Hampshire. And Kelly Ayotte never ran on being pro-Trump. She just ran on being a Republican. Chuck Norris would never win. I still voted for him in the primaries. This is what California is looking at. So the moderate Democrats, the not psychos, will see this and be like, oh, well, you know, our state is failing under Newsom, but this is a moderate Republican. He bent the knee to BLM. This is what's going to increase his standing with people like that. And unfortunately, in California, the population density of Democrats completely steamrolls over the amount of conservatives that are there, because millions have moved out in the last 10 years. They've moved onto greener pastures. So somebody like this, unfortunately, has an actual shot of becoming governor of that state. And it's our duty, mine, obviously Vem feels that way too, to point out this guy and how much of a fucking fake he is. He is absolutely the very definition of Manchurian candidate.
Yeah.
And I believe that most of the Republican Party is.
Yeah.
So there's proof positive that he's a fucking liar. That in and of itself should make it that you don't vote for him. But I don't know, man. I've seen some crazy shit come out of California.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not just, if you watch, you know, for people that want to watch the rest of that video, that's actually, I just posted it.
Yep.
The one with him in the straitjacket, which is a compilation of different lies that he said. I mean, not only did he lie and say, you know, first he lied for 3 years, said he never knelt for BLM, even though there's video of it, yelling at people, defaming people that would suggest that he kneeled. He also lied and said, then he was like, well, there was no rioting and looting afterwards. Well, yeah, there was rioting and looting afterwards. All you got to do is do a search for after Bianco kneeled for BLM, was there rioting and looting? And the answer is yes, right? And, you know, this is a guy that claims that he's a Christian, but has lied in churches to church audiences about this topic, amongst many others. And beyond that, you know, what you're saying about the Democrats, I mean, there's other issues. You know, they might look at him and be like, oh, this guy's moderate, he knelt for BLM. But then there's other issues like police brutality, like him talking about how he wishes it was the 60s and he could take illegal immigrants behind the woodshed and beat the shit out of them, right? So as you know, kind of look at the bigger picture, I mean, this is a dictator, power hungry, thinks that he could do, from his own words, I could do whatever I want, you know?
Yep. You guys heard it.
Really the kind of perfect candidate for the bad guys, really, because this is a guy that will sell us all out. He's already sold us all out before even the primary happens because of the deals that is cut. But backtracking to why this is, you know, some people look at it and they're like, yeah, it sucks. You know, you were called an assassin, but that went away. And that's not really what happened. This is an ongoing issue. And again, I got a lot of media on my platforms to show what's been happening, right? So October 14, and remember I said that I went into hiding October 13 because I felt that their next move was to try to kill me, right? And then, you know, articles come out making me out to be the, you know, Lee Harvey Oswald or whatever. Well, October 14, and now we're like 48 hours removed from the FBI and Secret Service realizing to send nothing burger and not even wanting to interview me. Well, because of the prior threats I had because of my investigative journalism, I had my mail sent to my parents' house. And they live in a safe community, but I figure as long as I'm not physically there, you know, it's a better place to have my mail sent. Well, that was the address on record, so they thought that's where I live. And October 14 at 5 p.m., they sent literally a battalion of police officers who most of them were good cops, because I got the body cams. And for people that want to watch this piece, it's a 20-minute piece called Geriatric Terrorism. So if you search for geriatric terrorism on X, you could actually watch this, you know, as it happened through the body cams, right? And what happened on that day is that all these cops show up to my parents' neighborhood and home without a warrant, trying to break into the house, invading the property. And there's two bad cops in there that are clearly there to lie. And what you hear them saying clearly is that I killed my parents first and then went to Coachella to kill Trump. And in those kind of situations, had I been there, and you hear about these kind of stories all the time, where like the dude was reaching for a water bottle, we thought it was a gun, we had to gun him down and kill him, right? Luckily, I wasn't there; I was in hiding far away. But they're propagating these lies. No evidence exists of any of this stuff, right? At this point in time, especially since the FBI Secret Service said this was a nothing burger, right? But nonetheless, you see these two bad cops amongst many others creating these fictions, saying that my parents' bodies are probably rotting inside the house because I killed them, trying to get inside the house. My parents, elderly parents, were inside the house. They're refusing to let them inside. And you see how abusive they were to them. An elderly couple that's already freaking out because their son's been on TV being called an assassin for the last 48 hours or 36 hours. And luckily, I'm friends with a gentleman by the name of Steve Sanson, who's an activist, and he's old school because he's been doing this, exposing a corrupt official since the 90s, right? So my parents get in touch with Steve Sanson. Steve Sanson shows up and has to call the governor of Nevada, has to call the sheriff of Nevada, and has to call multiple judges that he knows because of his work in exposing what's going on and also helping good judges, good politicians. And this is the only thing that makes him back down and leave my parents' property. But until then, it's very clear that at least for those two bad cops, the intention was to continue this false narrative, kill me. And I believe at the end of that was where Chad Bianco would have been in a safe place by having, killed this assassin or whatever, discovered the assassin. And that's the false narrative I think that they were trying to put forward. Now, subsequent to that, Chad Bianco has weaponized his campaign against me to completely censor my social media. I have charts on my Not Them Miller account on X, which show that the minute the guy started running for office, my social media was peaking a lot before then. And then it flatlines all the way until today. 3 months ago, before Stu Peters released that code, a friend of mine who had that code, and he's a very experienced tech person, let's just say that, gives me that code, and I run that code, and it turns out that the reason my social media has been so censored is because the Chad Bianco campaign, likely his sheriff's department, have put terrorist level tags on my account to censor me. And this is across the board with Instagram, this is with Facebook. So you don't hear this kind of information that I'm putting out there about Chad Bianco. He kept his attacks all over social media. Same thing where it's like there's a piece within that compilation with Bianco and the straitjacket where I flashed some of the messages he's put out there to his social media followers that I'd entered a Trump rally with guns. That's what he always says. I have actual footage of him saying this to large groups of Republicans to justify all this nonsense that he did. Now, what I've realized, and this is the most difficult part about this, is that people that I work with that are part of the right side media, and literally you could get the whole list of them. I'm not going to name names, but look at anybody that we considered throughout this last 3, 4, 5 years as being a truther. They've been part of the cover up on this. And I can't get on podcasts. I can't, people that I thought, would be willing to tell the truth about something like this. Because for me, it's not this gang mentality of Crips and Bloods. For me, it's like, if people are corrupt, we expose them as truthers, whether they're Republican or Democrat, just like the questions about George W. Bush, 9/11, the housing crisis. There's been a lot of people, quote unquote, on the right that have exposed the indiscretions of somebody like a George W. Bush. And I thought that's how this would play out. But the way it's been playing out is that there's been mass censorship. And like I said, you could go on your X account, YouTube, whatever, anybody that you think would be like, oh, that guy's going to tell the truth. No, they're part of the cover up of the story, unfortunately. So much respect to you, Rob, for even having me on your show, man. I noticed Enrique, who I've worked with before, and Ivan Raiklin, and that whole. I know a lot of the Proud Boys. I mean, you guys are like the only authentic ones. Enrique reposted this. Mass credit to him. Because frankly, some, not all, but some of the J6 people are the only ones that have been consistently honest and truthful about this, and some rare exceptions when it comes to podcasters and other types of personalities within, whatever's our side.
Well, dude, honestly, I thank you for coming on the show, man. This is absolutely within my wheelhouse, and I am not afraid of bringing the facts. Like I did a show about Carbon Mike and what he's going through in New York, being in jail for 10 years for never doing a goddamn thing. And listen, man, I have fought the system my whole entire life. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I'm at a point in my life and my age where, listen, I am tired. I'm very tired of seeing the things that are going on in this country. I remember, and this is why it's also important that you're here and that we're talking about this. I remember when the Patriot Act came out, and that was in discussions, and I tried to live by being a conservative. Like everything, I try to check myself in everything that I say and everything that I do. Most people don't do that. And I remember back then saying to my friends that I was riding with at the time, I still do, and I said, guys, they're going to use this against us. And these guys were like, nah, dude, you're just a conspiracy theorist, and our government would never do that to us. I'm like, guys, just wasn't it a couple of years ago, like 10 years ago, we were watching Waco happen. Oh, that was an isolated incident, and blah blah blah. And it was all the capitulation. It was the cognitive dissonance. They knew that the Patriot Act was going to be a bad thing for the American people, but they've already made up their mind that we needed this for the brown people with the suicide vests to save us, and they kept us in this hypnotic trance of always being afraid with the color coding system. Yellow, we're at a mild attack, and then sometimes it would go to red and everybody would freak out, and and it would it took their mind off of what was going on. And I'm not a fan of Michael Moore, and I've said this multiple times on the show. I think he's a reprehensible fat piece of shit. But Fahrenheit 9/11, people need to watch that. And I have to give credit where credit is due, even though I despise him in who he is now. Well, he was talking about this, and he interviewed plenty of senators that said, listen, man, it was 1,500 pages. We didn't even bother signing it. We have no idea what was in it. They have no idea. People today have no idea that Palantir was born from the fucking Patriot Act. I mean, this is where they got their start. This is where they got their startup money from. Yeah. So when I was raising fucking flags about this 20 fucking some odd years ago, people were like, no, that's not going to fucking happen. Look at us now.
Yeah.
And so, this is not, and maybe my mindset is antiquated. Maybe I can't get with the times. And, this is why the fucking Gen Zers call me a fucking boomer when I'm not. I believe in this fucking perfect experiment that our forefathers fought and died for. Maybe it is an antiquated view, but I'm not going to give up on it. So anybody that's going to expose this, like you, has absolutely got a place on the fucking show.
Yeah, it's not an antiquated view, man. I mean, it's obvious that the whole world is moving towards tyranny, that kind of royalty monarchy thing that we try to escape and fight for. What it is, it's a lot of people acquiescing, a lot of people forgetting the taste of tyranny. I've had a different point of view, because the tyranny is like really close to my family. You know, coming from an Armenian family, my great grandfather, like, you know, his whole family was slaughtered when the Ottoman Turks decided to kill everybody that's of Christian background. You know, and I saw, you know, the 10 points of genocide, which is the first thing that they do is they take your guns and disempower the men. And then I look at what's been happening in this country with propaganda and, you know, calling men toxic, coming up with these fake shootings, like the Las Vegas mass shooting.
Yes, that was a 249 Bravo. That was not a fucking bump stock.
I mean, my business partner, Mindy Robinson, created one of the best documentaries about that topic. And, you know, there was multiple shooters. It's obvious that Sheriff Joe Lombardo, after he was, you know, that call came in, changed his narrative from for sure there was multiple shooters to it was one guy with a bump stock. And anybody that wants to know the BS surrounding that should check out, you know, Jason Goodman, by the way, who I just did an interview with, another one of the few podcasters that actually has the balls to let me on, also researched that topic, and he was one of the better investigators. Mindy Robinson's documentary, The Route 91 Shooting, which you could find on the cover page of AmericaHappens.com. And it's very clear, you know, they're trying to get us to be, you know, another brick in the wall, to be 1984. And unfortunately, they're succeeding because our side, frankly, man, is full of shit. And going through this experience and realizing how people are split into these two gangs of red versus blue, which is a gang mentality, which is going to get us into civil conflict guaranteed, is the crux of the problem. Because, you know, it wasn't about truth. That's what I discovered. It's really about, oh, Chad Bianco is a red and we want him in office because we want a red guy in office. Damn be the truth. And his kind of pattern practice, his history shows that he is willing to bend the knee. He's not going to fight for...
I mean, literally, bend the fucking knee.
He's not going to fight for the things like what you're saying. He's going to accentuate what the Patriot Act thinks. His words are say so. Like, it's obvious the guy's a dictator-minded individual, right? And all one has to do is check out the content that's on my Not Van Miller account, as well as AmericaHappens.com, to get a real picture of who Chad Bianco is. And that's the guy that they're pushing. That's the guy they're censoring, anybody that would want to dissent against the lies. So I don't know, man. You know, it's kind of like I've had to make a decision in this whole thing where, you know, life would have been a lot easier had I firstly bent the knee to Hollywood and just stayed there and done their propaganda. You know, certainly a lot of money involved in that. And the next stage of this has been, you know, do I bend the knee to what's going on in our side of the movement in politics? And no, it's like, frankly, like it's just not an option, you know? So
we have a question, and we'll get to that in 1 second. I have a very, very good friend who has been an actor for 40 years, who I actually talk to daily, who pretty much did the same thing with Hollywood. And he lost over $80 million because he wouldn't bend the knee to Bob Iger. So yeah, I know, and I you know, I've talked to him at length about this. So we do have some questions, and we're going to go to Tracy first. Tracy, how are you? And thank you for coming up and asking a question.
Yes. Thank you, Rob. Hi, Vim. Really nice to meet you. Remember your story, and any of us in the Southwest here know that Chad Bianco is corrupt. We all know. Mm-hmm. And probable ties to the cartel. Now, I remember when this story came... I'm sorry, go ahead.
He said, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So I remember when he had the press conference back in October 2024, his first lie, one of the first things he said in his opening statement was that your VIP press pass was fake, which is so easy to prove that it wasn't. So that was his first lie.
Mhm.
And then I wanted to ask you about, he also said that your license plates were fake and homemade. And then you had made reference to the sovereign citizen. I wish you could explain to me how that works, the making your own plates and whatever happened about that situation there.
I didn't make my own plates, and what's obvious in that is I was never cited for fake plates or anything. This was something verbally he said. I didn't make my own plates. It was really what I'd done is I tried to do a DOT process for a DOT license because I use my car for work, which is a national designation, and I hadn't done it correctly. But in terms of this idea of sovereign, I admit I made a mistake there. It wasn't even a mistake enough where they could cite me for it. But again, he tried to take anything he could grab onto, whether however degree of lie it was. Some were extreme lies, some were less extreme lies, and he tried to blow it up into something that it wasn't. But he was trying to paint a portrait. I call it the Unabomber portrait. It's like this cross between Jason Bourne and Unabomber was the picture that he was trying to put forward there. And all the receipts exist to show that these were all categorical lies, where my car, I was given the example before where he was like, oh, we pulled him over because his car was in disarray. Well, I have a receipt from the day before where this 2024 brand new car was washed, cleaned, was spotless when I showed up. And, again, it's the whole thing of like trying to, fake passport sounds like very Jason Bourne, James Bondish. You know what I mean? But there was no fake passports because if there was, that's a federal charge. I mean, you get thrown into prison by faking passports, So anyway, it's
So the other than the night before, you didn't have any kind of contact with Sheriff Bianco. Did you know who he was? Was there a history there, or or this what he did was just he saw an opportunity to bolster himself and his put a spotlight on him, and he just used your situation, or do you think that he had something personal against you and was going for you?
No, nothing personal. I'm glad you asked that question. I think what happened was because I discovered the 150 semi-trucks and trailers of ballot fraud, I know the company. I shared that information. So, I told you about the three, spooks that were involved in this whole investigation. And they warned me. They said, even the fact that you're emailing us these documents that you've discovered, they already know. And I think what happened was when I showed up and foolishly told them that I had firearms, well, remember, they held me for 3 hours, right? In that 3 hours, the bad guys are researching who this guy is, right? And when they find out that this is the guy that discovered the entire ecosystem of ballot fraud, which, by the way, President Trump made a statement on December 15, 2025, that they had truckloads of evidence of ballot fraud in California. These individuals that were behind the scenes have confirmed that, one of them said 100% he's talking about your truckloads of ballot fraud. Being, him using the word truckloads was very interesting, right? I know for a fact that I've sent this to some of the closest associates of President Trump, right? So I think I stepped in a pile of shit when I discovered this, because this is the same ballot fraud mechanism that is most likely going to try to usher in a Bianco administration. Because as this lady was talking about, how everybody in Southern California knows that this guy's corrupt and he's a liar, right? So you're not going to get much voter enthusiasm like we would for Donald Trump with people rushing to the polls to vote this guy in. Well, how are they going to get him in? How are they going to force him in with these kind of fake polls and all of that? Well, this is a situation where it works for both sides of the aisle, right? The leftist media benefits from pushing this guy forward as the top candidate, right? And covering up the truth, because you look at something like the Garvey and Adam Schiff race, right? What happened in there was that Adam Schiff realized that if he went up against Katie Porter in this jungle primary, they would have to spend $100 million fighting Katie Porter because she could be really nasty. She'll fight them tooth and nail, and it's going to cost them a lot of money.
APEC has that kind of money.
Yeah. And it's going to cost them a lot of money to keep Schiff in, versus what they did is through these PAC methods, they gave Garvey $10 million pre-primary, which doesn't happen pre-primary. Everybody invests in the primary winner because pre-primary is too risky. But in this case, they made sure Garvey got $10 million because having Garvey, a terrible opponent to Schiff, would guarantee that Schiff would win. And guess what? They just saved $90 million, right?
Yep.
So what I tell a lot of these Republicans is, while these Democrats, leftists, globalists, Marxist, communists are playing chess, y'all don't even know how to play checkers. I won't even give you that credit. Like, you literally do not know how to play checkers, and you don't realize what's happening behind the scenes. So my theory is one of two. Chad Bianco is so corrupted that these truckloads of ballot fraud, unless President Trump does an executive order to put him to stop. And that's another gripe I have, by the way, because I work with Tina Peters quite a bit. The fact that she's in jail, prison, getting beat up.
Beat up and tortured.
Like, seriously, fuck these guys, dude. Fuck these guys. That woman put her life on the line, and she spent the last year and some in prison being persecuted, and all they got to do is do an investigation, give her whistleblower status. They say, oh, it's a state crime. No, you have the investigation on this ballot fraud happen, and then you yank her out of jail as a whistleblower. So, man, I got a lot of rage within me because of the failings of this administration. And I just don't understand some of this stuff. I don't know how you take a Gold Star mother that put her ass on the line, backed up those machines, and let her rot in jail when she's 70 years old. You know.
Yep.
So anyway, I think what they're trying to do is that Chad Bianco.
That's Pam Bondi, dude. That's Pam Bondi. An abject fucking failure.
I've said that for the last year, but you know what? Donald Trump's the boss, dude. Donald Trump's the boss. And he's seeing Tina Peters rot in jail, and it's time that he starts acting like a boss and get her the hell out of there. And incidentally, the two people, I mean, I'm like a minor compared to Tina Peters. I'm like 1% of Tina Peters. But incidentally, the minute I discovered the truckloads is when my life started getting attacked, supported by both left and the right. So the point I was trying to make in terms of the media, I think the left benefits from propping up Chad Bianco because the other frontrunner, Steve Hilton, is much more articulate. He actually has brain cells, which I don't think I think Chad Bianco is like a really dumb guy. You know what I mean? If you're that dumb where rather than say, hey, you know what, I made a mistake, be humble, and, you know, whatever, I thought that was going to be rioting. I thought me taking a knee would have helped the situation. No, he lies when there's videos out there.
Yep.
And he yells at people, which is just the actions of like, I call him like a cross between like Biff Tannen and Texas Walker Ranger. And the Texas Walker Ranger thing is because of the way he does it, but it's like he's Biff Tannen. Like, he's like dumb. Yeah. Knucklehead, right? So I think what they're trying to do
it's a bad combination, being dumb and full of yourself.
Yeah, worst combination. And it's sad that people are buying this nonsense. But if my social media wasn't heavily censored, if the right side media actually had some balls rather than playing politics with people's lives, they would actually talk about this. And then we'd be looking at one or two other candidates, because you get Chad Bianco out of the race. There's like 5 amazing candidates that, because of the airtime that Chad Bianco is taking, they have no voice right now, and they're far superior, which I understand why they wouldn't want those people to be in the first or second place, because those guys actually have some balls and brains, and they're not going to do corrupt stuff to the level of a Chad Bianco. So I think the trick here is what they're trying to do is prop up Chad Bianco until the primary, making sure that the other smarter guys don't get in there, because we already know the guy's an idiot, and every time he talks, he's going to say really dumb things that are going to basically hang himself. Or they're just going to push him all the way through with these truckloads of ballot fraud, because then they have a complete tool in office. I haven't figured out which one it is. If you look at the Steve Garvey, Adam Schiff race, it's really that trick of let's prop this guy up, let's have him become at least first or second in the jungle primary, and then all this stuff will release. But I doubt that version also, because releasing all this stuff means giving me back my voice, which also means that the 150 semi trucks and trailers become public knowledge, which then blows the whole scheme up, and they can't control elections anymore. So that's truly what I think is going on.
So, well, here's the question, because, and this is, I get called black-pilled quite a bit, and I just think that I actually take it as a compliment, to be quite honest with you, because I believe and I know that being black-pilled is looking at life through the lens of reality, that there is no fucking rainbows and unicorns and fucking, this is the truth. But what separates what people think is being black-pilled and what being black-pilled really is okay, Trump made some bad decisions. That is abject reality. Like Pam Bondi is his biggest mistake and I think failure out of both administrations. People argue with me about that all the time, but I look at Pam Bondi and I'm like, you can't, and you're like, oh, you're so black-pilled, you got to give her a chance. Well, we're a year into this now, and nothing has been done. Nothing but a fucking meth head and a retard has been arrested, and that's who you're, flaunting out there. And we know that Trump is a human being. People, unfortunately, put like this godlike status on him that he can do no wrong and every decision he makes is right. And he's a human being like you and I are. And I think two things. Trump, in his first term, he had Mike Pence and Jared Kushner doing this. Mike Pence, I was vehemently opposed to Mike Pence. Still to this day I am. I couldn't believe that they were running him with it, but it makes sense because they needed a swamp donkey like him to fucking show Trump the ropes. But then Trump goes and endorses Lindsey Graham. And we're all like, what the fuck? And the capitulation is, well, he's somebody that I can control, and I want to make sure, I have my enemy close to me. How likely do you think, and what is your response? How likely is it that Trump is going to endorse Chad Bianco? And what do you think what is your response going to be? And what do you think the people's response that put him in office should be?
I really don't think Trump's going to endorse Chad Bianco because of the kneeling. That's been public knowledge. I hope he wouldn't. I mean, I'm already at this point, Rob, where I'm just used to making, lemonade out of lemons, and I've been working.
Ain't that the fucking truth?
Yeah, I've been working actively on building a third-party concept that actually has legs. I've shared it with about 20 people that have all agreed that this is exactly what we need at this time. I was on a podcast yesterday with one of the individuals that had seen it, and he was really praising because I truly feel as though there was divine inspiration with this one, and the timing's good. Also, if you look at the California polls, over 50% are MPP, no party preference, because both the Republicans and Democrats are disgusted. So I do feel as though this is the time to launch a third party, which I'm going to be exposing next week for people that, want to follow me on X and also check out americahappens.com. There will be a 14-minute video that I'm going to release that is all about this third-party concept. Because frankly, man, I'm at a point where I just lost trust in everybody. My trust in Donald Trump's hanging by a thread at this point because of the decisions he's made, because of the lack of, I mean, the Tina Peters thing really, it really is the thing that bugs me the most, more so. And, you know, if you look at my story, the things that happened to my parents with the geriatric terrorism piece and all that stuff, like, I'm not one to feel sorry for myself as much as I am when, you know, this kind of shitty group of individuals goes after elderly and vulnerable people. And it just, you know, makes my ears go red every time I think about what they did to my parents, their trauma that they experience on a daily level, and what they're doing to Tina Peters as a Gold Star mom. So that was definitely heavy inspiration for me over the last 3 months to put this piece together. I'm going to reveal it very soon. And I just look forward to people giving me their feedback on what they think about it, because I actually think this is the vehicle through which we get rid of this, you know, two-party, uniparty, strong, you know, stranglehold on the American people, and we actually have a chance of getting our liberties back.
Well, I believe that all of us, as far as voting citizens go, have been indoctrinated into the two-party system for, you know, our entire lives. Most people will say that there has never been and there never will be a viable third party. The libertarians don't got it right. Unfortunately, there's too much infighting and not decisive action in the Libertarian Party, and they're tearing themselves apart. There's one sect of the Libertarian Party that is extremely attractive, then there's another part of it that really isn't, and they're at war with one another. So unfortunately, libertarians aren't viable. I've always said that I vote Republican because they're the closest that align with my conservative values. But I've always felt every single time I vote that I'm just doing it, and I hate to say it like this, but as a protest vote against the Democrats, because there's nothing on the Democrats' side that I align with at all. Never have since I voted for Ross fucking Perot. I voted for Ross Perot. I wasn't wooed by Bill Clinton there. You know, you can come on Arsenio Hall and play your saxophone and profess to say that you took a drag of a joint, but you didn't fucking inhale. And you know, so many of the kids my age were all like, this dude's so fucking cool. Look at him. You've never seen a president come and hang out like that and play the saxophone. And I was just like, nope. So I have always, like I said, I've always said that the Republican Party is the one that closely aligns with my beliefs, but not 100%, and never have. And I believe that the Republicans, you know, don't. And now it's even worse. You see, you know, anytime a Republican says, hey, this is not right, then this is not conservative values, they chew them up and spit them out. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was not a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. I just thought that she was a fake. She was a lifelong Hawaiian Democrat who was anti-gun. And then when she decided to leave the party, she all of a sudden became a gun bunny because she wanted our votes. And I just thought she was fake as hell. You can't go your entire life saying that you want to ban AR-15s. Now all of a sudden you're running around in the dirt with full kit with a fucking AR-15 and think that you're going to get my fucking vote, or you're going to get my sympathies, or you're going to get my support. And then she comes in like a fucking hammer, and you hear her going, hey, this, and this. And everybody's like, oh, all right, she's fucking brutal. She's doing the thing. And then what? For months we haven't heard anything from Tulsi Gabbard. And that's the Republican Party getting to her. That's not the Democrats that are getting to her. Mm. So, look, man, I am all for, if there was ever a viable third party that espoused my values, I would be all for it. I believe that I am a conservative through and through. I check myself every day to see what my conservative values are. And the number one thing I go to is less government, maximum freedom. Mm-hmm. And that's what I believe.
Agreed. Yeah.
And when you have somebody like him in that article that I brought up. This is like I am going to make a meme later, and I'm going to post this. It's a group that doesn't believe they are certainly considered a far right group. I wouldn't say it's a militant group. It's just a group that doesn't believe in government and government control. You cannot be a Republican or even try to say that you have any kind of conservative values, that you are for American exceptionalism or Western civilization or Western culture, if you believe that the government should have control over its citizens. That is diametrically opposed to the constitutional republic that our forefathers set up. They only have power because we have given them the power to govern over us. We have the fucking power, and our government has fucking forgot that. And the fact that anybody here thinks that it's okay for the government to control what you do and mandate everything in your life, and I'll say this, that there's a fight going on. New Hampshire is the only state, and this is small compared to but this just goes to show you how people think and how people have been indoctrinated for decades into this whole mindset that the government, big daddy government and big mommy government, know what's best for you. They don't. We are the only state in the country that doesn't mandate auto insurance. New Hampshire is the only state in the country. There's a huge fight right now going on. The very few Democrats that we have, they want to mandate auto insurance in this state. The one thing that government should never do is mandate anything to you, first of all. But second of all, we have the most competitive insurance rates in the country. What that does by not having it mandated is gives us, the citizens of New Hampshire, the choice to do what we want to do with ourselves. And it makes insurance extremely competitive, that they need to compete for our dollars, not, Massachusetts, it's mandatory. They can set whatever fucking rate they want, and you have to pay it because the government fucking told you so. This is the mindset of the people in this country. You don't seem to understand. You are a free individual. You have liberty. You have sovereignty. The government has taken it away from you, and people like Chad Bianco think that the government should control you. This is not espousing conservative principles and conservative values. This is something you need to fight at all costs. I say this all the time on the show. People that just think I'm being hyperbolic. I'm not. There are people out there that are in our party, I say our party, the Republican Party, that believe the government should control you. And we need to fight back and fight it with every fucking ounce of our strength and our breath and our energy, man.
Yeah, the system's rigged. I mean, they use different words. They call bribery lobbying. When you do
Yep.
when you have bribery, let's call it what it is. So big money comes in and bribes everyone. And unfortunately, 99.999% of these people are prostitutes, and they have their price point, So the way the system's created right now is really for backdoor communism. That's what I call it. Backdoor communist Marxism. When Bianco talks, and if you change that to Cantonese as opposed to English, you'd be like, this guy is part of the Communist Chinese Party when he's talking about that kind of people. You know what I mean? But he wears his sheriff uniform, which, by the way, you're not supposed to wear your sheriff's uniform when you're campaigning for other office. You're not supposed to use sheriff's garb, resources, which he does all the time. But then you have Rob Bonta, right? The Attorney General. And they play this WWE game, pretend that they're enemies, but really when you go through the receipts, they're just covering each other's ass on the real important stuff, like the fact that Chad Bianco, I mean, we didn't even get into the theft of public funds, like the fact that he's got a $1.1 billion budget and 9.2% crime-solving record with a $1.1 billion budget, $100 million over because of lawsuits alone, with at least 19 more lawsuits on tap, the highest number of jail deaths under his watch, people watch that video, you'll see some examples of the police brutality that results in these lawsuits that he keeps losing, all paid from the taxpayers. And on the same token, you have huge amounts of money being infused via bribery, which we call it PACs and lobbying, but huge amounts of money by bad people who love this kind of dumb character, that's willing to take the knee on so many issues because he's controllable. His record has already shown he's going to be whoever's bitch pays him the money to be his bitch. And people that think that, oh, Chad Bianco is this, salt of the earth guy. Well, listen, he has been a public official his entire life, had no success in private industry. If he conducted himself that way in private industry, he would have been homeless already because he just has endless access to cash. And you wonder why California's budget is over by $250 billion every year. Well, look no further than individuals like Chad Bianco and that entire ecosystem. Chad Bianco is basically the exact same thing as Governor Newsom. It's just Governor Newsom has controlled the entirety of California. But when you go into Chad Bianco's budgets and you realize that he's close to $250 million worth of fraud and abuse, and I'll give you some other quick examples where we discovered that, let's say a door costs $3,000. Well, Chad Bianco's team is billing it at $50,000. $47,000 more than the most expensive door on the market. They build a bathroom that costs $100,000. Well, on the budget, it's $800,000. So guess who's pocketing that change? Why isn't Rob Bonta, who pretends he is Chad's enemy and politically opposed to him, investigating that? Why? I mean, these are obvious issues with fraud. And by the way, in one case they had an actual detective or deputy that had contractor experience that was catching all this fraud. So he was the guy that was saying, "Look, we shouldn't pay $3,000 for a door, $50,000 for a door that costs $3,000." Mm-hmm. Well, he is transferred to another department far, far away, and they bring a guy in that knows nothing about building. And that's the guy that then okays everything. And if you look at further evidence, he's the kind of guy that does a lot of favors for his people. So his executive staff gets $4,000 guns when, most handguns cost $500, right? Mm-hmm. His executive staff under the last sheriff was driving around in $30,000 vehicles. Well, Chad Bianco is out there buying $100,000 vehicles. Chad Bianco and his wife, who's actually equally corrupt, but they get together. They have this private, they call it the Bonka crew or something. They play this card game called Bonka. Well, if you're in the Bonka crew, you could get away with anything, including one of their sons that was arrested for fentanyl possessions, criminally charged, and then boom, the criminal charges go away, including one of his Bonka crew individuals, friends, that assaulted a security officer and got criminally charged, but then it goes away, So, and then including a police officer that's making OnlyFans porns on the side with his wife. And, you would think that that's something that, firstly, it's like he's got another job because he's making money from porn, but you would think that doesn't reflect very well on a Christian conservative to have an OnlyFans porn maker. Well, nothing. The guy's still in his job. He's still a sergeant, and it's just like everywhere you look, this guy is like not what he says he is and is actually abusing the system. That's why, we're doing the entire math on this right now, but it's going to turn out to be that on his $1.1 billion budget, that the fraud, waste, and abuse is close to $250 million. When you compare that to Newsom, exactly the same thing. But Newsom's just he's working with the entirety of California, right, where Chad Bianco thus far has been in charge of Riverside.
Well, Vem, as far as the live show goes, we're going to end the live show, but we're going to keep the space going. So if you want to come over to the space, I would really want to thank you for coming on. I think we need to do a part 2 if you're willing to do that, because there's so much more here to unpack, and unfortunately the time constraints in the studio. But I would definitely want to do a second part to this. Do you have anything you want to promote? You tell people that are listening that aren't watching where to go to find all this information. Go ahead. This is the promotional time.
AmericaHappens.com is our network. That's where we post a lot of things. And also my X account at NotVemMiller. Vem is with an M, like Michael. And yeah, just follow me. I'm going to release some really cool stuff next week with this third party concept. And we're just going to keep rolling with these punches, making, lemonade out of lemons. And I will definitely join you on the spaces. I'm going to do a little quick bathroom break, but I'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right, Vem, thank you very much again for coming on the show, dude. I truly appreciate you being, I wasn't supposed to do that. It's kind of hard when you're producing it yourself, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, about that, yeah.
The only way we're going to win, guys, is if we support one another, support people like Vem, support the people that are the whistleblowers. I mean, you've heard a story like this. Somebody like Chad Bianco should never be anywhere near power. He's just somebody that we should expel from the conservative or the Republican movement. We need to clean shit up. We really, truly do. And it's getting information out like what Ben was talking about this entire time about somebody like if you're in California right now, and I know that there's a lot of listeners here and that are watching that are in California that should really, really, put this dude under a microscope. I mean, all the factual information that we brought today should be enough for you to be like, But unfortunately, I do believe, and I say this a lot, that we are our own worst enemy when it comes to voting, and we just go into the ballot box, and if they have an R next to the name, you just do. Nobody does the work to investigate or vet the candidates. And this is why it's so important to have somebody like Vem on to talk about this, because California could go from as bad as it is to staying as bad, or go from bad to worse. And just because the guy's got an R next to his name does not mean he is espousing the values that you hold dear. So you really need to investigate people like this. This is where the support comes in. We're masters. The Republican Party and so-called conservatives are the masters of knocking our own dicks in the dirt and the infighting. The left kicks our asses because they are so in lockstep with one another. They're not going to go outside. And the people that do, like John Fetterman, I don't think John Fetterman has a fucking chance in the Democrat Party because he's stepping out and saying, you know what? No. There's something fucking wrong here. I think the best thing that happened to him was that stroke, to be quite honest with you. And I hate to say it like that. I mean, it's kind of fucking bleak. But when you have people like him and Tulsi Gabbard that are not towing the line, look what happened to them. I mean, listen, the majority of our administration right now are former Democrats, and we just voted for it. We just were like, oh, they were Democrats and they switched parties. Well, what we need true conservative representation, and the only way to do it is to come together on this. We can't just be consummate dick riders when it comes to Trump and everything he does, and we can't just be so bleak about throwing him to the fucking wolves when he does something wrong. We need to start being more moderate when it comes to that and saying, all right, you know what? We can say Trump has done something wrong, but at the same time, laud the things that he's done right. We want him to hear us. We want a voice that's so overwhelming that he hears us and be like, all right, you know what? I think I made a mistake in this. I need to backtrack this. That's what we're here for. We shouldn't just stay silent and compliant. That's not what conservative values are. So we need to support one another. We need to get off this cutting each other's nuts off. We really, really, really need to come together. We are going to lose 2026 if we don't pull our heads out of our asses. And then he really is not going to be able to get things done for the next 2 years. And then there's a pretty good chance if that happens, we're going to lose in 2028. And if you think that Biden was bad for those 4 years in that kind of regime, the Democrats are so pissed off at everything that's going on right now. You're going to see mass arrests of ICE agents. You're going to see they're going to try to go after every single one of those J6ers again to try to come up with some kind of fucking trumped up charges. And you know what? You guys have heard Enrique say multiple times that if Kamala had won, they were coming for me next and everybody that was like me. So we really need to come together. We really need to pull our heads out of our asses. So again, Vem, thank you guys very much. Thank you for everybody that was watching. I truly appreciate it. You have no idea how much it means to me. Thank you guys for in the space. So those that are watching that don't know, we are doing an X space right now at the Rob 1772. Just go there. It's on my profile. Come in, grab a mic, and Vem's going to take a bathroom break. And with that, I will say have a great weekend. I hope you all, if you are in a snow zone like I am, be safe. Don't it's hubris if you think that you can go out and drive in some shit like this. If you're getting 24 fucking inches of snow like we are, stay home, stay safe. And again, thank you guys very much, man. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Thank you guys.